on waste prevention and finding alternative to current use of packaging. Here we have a lineup of 3 speakers. First, a policy introduction by Valentina Bertato, followed by 2 retail perspectives, so 2 practices from Reusable Group and Geronimo Martins. I'm just going to let Valentina just switch on your camera, and I'll leave you the floor. Yes, there you are.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for asking me to do this introduction. Waste prevention, indeed, this is the key point. It is the first priority of the waste hierarchy, but I think that it was never treated really as the first priority. Even now that we have a lot of discussion, a lot of political action concerning plastic, for example, my impression is that the focus is always more on recycling rather than prevention. My colleague Mattia already spoke about the review of the Packaging and Packaging Waste Directive, and one of the objectives that is the reduction of overpackaging. And I really believe that this is the moment to act really on prevention as well. Thinking, for example, about food packaging, this is something that we all consumer experience because we all buy food. We have often heard that food packaging is needed because in this way you reduce food waste. But is it really so? We also have reports showing that over time we see both an increase in the packaging use, but also an increase in food waste. So maybe consumers, they are indeed buying more food because it lasts longer, but at the end they throw away also more food. Another example that we all see in our daily life, all this availability of multi-packs. So here you have more packaging, the waste that becomes waste at the end because it's a plastic film that cannot be recycled. You buy more and you end up throwing away more. So I would like maybe now to bring a little bit more personal experience. I am working on the chemicals legislation, and among the different files that I follow, one of the key ones is the restriction of microplastics. I started this work 2 years ago. And there I started also digging a little bit more into the plastic problem, the plastic strategy, all the actions that are foreseen there. And I've tried personally to reduce the waste I produce, first from plastic, but then moving also to all the other kind of materials and packaging. So the results that I've seen this last year is that I almost completely stopped buying food from supermarkets. I moved to farmers market, mostly from producers, direct producers, and zero waste shops. So I've seen a clear result in the quantity of waste that I produce. It is, I think, 1/10 of what I used to produce before, and I have not ended up throwing away more food. So my conclusion is that you can really prevent the production of packaging waste. What can we do now? From the point of view of regulators, of course, there is a limit to what we can do. We can try to have laws that reduce the use of packaging, but we cannot ban packaging. On the other hand, there is a lot that retailers can do, because retailers, they influence the consumer choices. So you can move also consumers from one pattern of consumption and throwing away to something more sustainable. So just to conclude, what I would like to hear today on the discussion, but also in the follow-up actions, some clear proposals on really how to tackle the overpackaging, how to reduce, to prevent the production of waste packaging, some discussion on when is packaging really essential. So for sure, my experience shows me that all the discussions I've heard on essentiality of some packaging, at the end, we don't really need it. So I could get away well avoiding most of the packaging that I was using before. And there may be something as regulators, if there are barriers to implementing action for prevention of packaging waste, we would like to know, because here this is something, maybe there is something that we can do to avoid these barriers. And then maybe also can retailers learn from the experience of zero waste shops? We see them growing around us. I had first the experience, I never knew about these shops until 1 year ago. Now I almost only shop in these shops. So I know that the situation is different. There is different size, different objectives, but maybe there are some of these solutions that you could also implement in big shops, in retailers. And then at the end of this, we will see if I will be able to come back and to shop in supermarkets, maybe hopefully with less packaging.
Well, thank you very much for your straightforward question. I think we can answer some of them. I could definitely answer some of them, but I'm here to moderate and not speak. So I'm just going to leave the floor to two of my colleagues. So Julia Ries, if you can join in.
Yes, I hope
Yes.
that you can see the presentation.
Yes. Yes, you just need to.
Mode.
Right, perfect. It's in full mode.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to try to answer as many questions that have been posed and linked to previous discussions. So maybe just a small introduction to Rewe Group. We are a cooperatively structured retailer. We were founded in the 1920s, and we currently employ 360,000 people in Europe. And so I would like today to present a little bit more about our packaging strategy, but I wanted to start with a nice, I thought a nice quote from a German newspaper that said that the cucumber, to kind of try to unpack it, is just kind of the final boss in the packaging debate, if this was a video game or Hollywood movie. And that is kind of what the debate, in my view, sums up the debate quite well, because it's a highly emotional debate, and it's very tricky and it's very challenging. For example, the cucumber has been that kind of a poster boy for the debate around getting rid of plastic packaging. It is, however, highly difficult. We have done that in our stores since last year, but this required a change in the entire supply chain and how we deliver these products, because they have a shorter expiration date, these kind of cucumbers, and you need to change the way you transport them, because they can get damaged easier. So this is something that I just wanted to start the debate with, but in general, I wanted to give you the strategy and a few examples of how we deal with packaging reduction in our retail stores, and then the remaining challenges where we would like to see some support from the EU policymakers to remove those challenges. So overall, we've made for the group a commitment of 100% more environmentally friendly packaging until end 2030. That means the packaging has to be the least environmentally impactful of all the options provided. In order to turn that around in the group, we have a threefold approach. The priority is to avoid the packaging completely. The remaining packaging material that we cannot avoid has to be reduced as much as possible, and that final reduced amount of packaging needed, that has to be improved. It has to be the best material possible for that solution. Well, that's kind of the overall approach. We have a few general targets developed to kind of guide the way towards the more environmentally friendly packaging goal. I will go into detail on a few of those later on in my presentation. How do we implement that? How do we decide within the group of what is a more environmentally friendly packaging? Because that can be quite difficult. So for Germany, for example, we have developed guidelines that give indications on how to buy more environmentally friendly packaging, and have a dialogue with the suppliers. There we've developed 6 criteria against which we benchmark every single packaging that we use for our own brand products. And we go about that also in a three-step process. So we have general requirements on how packaging for the own brand products has to be designed. Then we have dedicated conversations with our suppliers for own brand products where we see room for greater improvement. And then we have many projects where we test new innovations in order to see if there's something that we can, is there something that works, is there something that is accepted by the consumer, is there something that does not have impact on the food waste component. And then we will be, those that work, we will be able to implement that across the board. And I will go to a few concrete examples to put a bit more flesh on this. So if you look at the avoid example, a few years ago, we were the first to test that reusable pouch for fruit and vegetables, so that not the thin plastic bags have to be used. We've started this year to test for the salad bars, a reusable return system. We are cooperating here with a small startup from Germany called Vital. And they basically provide an app system with those app return system with those reusable bowls for the salad bars, and the consumer can just request this bowl, and they will be able to take it from a dispenser in our stores, fill the salad bowl, and then bring it back, drop it off to a Rewe store, and then there it will be picked up by the startup with a bike. So also the pickup will be done in the most environment friendly way. So we're testing this, and we're really hoping that consumers will pick this up. And since we're cooperative, we have the opportunity to test these things in 1, 2, 3 stores, and then try to push that out throughout the entire group if the tests are successful. Another very successful test in our view was we tested in the west of Germany in around 600 stores in the organic fruit and vegetable last year, April 2019. We started testing to sell organic fruit and vegetables completely unpacked. And we saw great results. So the consumers really did pick this up, especially in the organic section. That is quite an emotional topic there. And now we have a lot more opportunities of labeling, such as the natural branding and the stickers. So that was very successful, and now we've implemented this across Germany, and there you can already see the amount of plastic and paper and tons that we were able to save with this project. Then reduction. For reduction, I have a few examples because a lot of times consumers don't really notice how much reduction is already possible and has been done. So here for the chocolate cakes, there was a reduction in the box size. It was left to savings in paper. For the pasta, we've reduced the height of the plastic packaging material, as well as we got rid of the clip. And for the cornflakes, you see that the strength of the plastic bag that has been made thinner. So we're actually via these small adjustments reducing already the amount in the packaging that is needed. And then I have 2 examples for improvement. There you see for the cookies is one example where the black trays are transparent trays, which is most helpful to the recyclers at the end of the recycling stage in order for the machines to better pick out the plastic. And for the care products, we have many cosmetics and care products and cleaning products where we have the packaging made of 100% recycled content. And on this last recycled content part, I just wanted to give a little bit of focus on that because for many years we've been involved in initiatives together with other German companies to work on removing the barriers for using recycled materials in consumer FMCG packaging. Because this is in many applications, this is still quite challenging, especially food contact materials. But also in cleaning products and in cosmetics, we have in Germany we have a closed loop recycling for PET bottles, but we also have a German yellow bag system where plastic waste is being collected. So this is a mix of different plastics. So PET bottles are part of the deposit return scheme, but in the yellow bag you find numerous different plastic materials. So we are part of the initiative Wir für Recyclat, so Us for Recycled, where we try to make the materials out of the German yellow bag reusable in FMCG product recycled packaging materials. And so we have 100% recycled, and we are now currently up to 20% from the German yellow bag material. And so we've also put a specific target for those to increase the amount of recycled material in our packaging. And here I just wanted to show that we've also this year introduced specific labels in order to ensure that it's more transparent to the consumer what has been done in terms of packaging reduction, because it's not always very visible how much has already been saved and where these things have been saved. Also, if we look, for example, for things from glass packaging to light glass packaging, that's not always visible to the consumer. So we started to use a label and to label more and more products to also make the consumer aware of material being used, of material being reduced, and to also think about other options that can be done. I just wanted to give kind of an overview of the kind of work behind this. So far, we've looked at over 2,000 products. Because as you can see, you really have to use look at different products and different approaches on how to find the best option for the relevant product. And the remaining challenges, which is probably the most interesting for everyone here, is, and it's been mentioned before, there are so many elements that a piece of packaging has to fulfill. And so there always is the question of looking at all these goals that you want to achieve with packaging. What is the optimal packaging? And that's I brought an example for yogurt, and that has been mentioned before already, that we have two options here. And I've written down a little bit what are the drawbacks in red and the gains in green. And so you really have to look at each and every product, look at all the research, and then as a retailer decide which way are we going to go, which way are we going to test, to see what will work, where does the consumer engage, and also speak to recyclers about their experience in terms of what ends up for them in the down the chain. And the remaining challenges for us today are still the missing uniform and recognized standard that indicates the recyclability. So that would be very helpful to have an EU uniform standard on that. And I've seen that as part of the consultation, so that's very good. We feel that we need EU sustainability criteria for bioplastics, because currently it is not quite clear in which specific applications they would be environmentally friendly, and it would be good to have that harmonized EU-wide. And there are still many existing barriers and challenges for the use of recycled, especially when it comes to food contact materials, but also in the perception of consumers. And I've just brought one last example from our DIY stores too, and there you see the paint super white. And there we've worked in a project that lasted 3 years together with the supplier and a recycler to make that packaging out of recycled materials, which is very difficult to do because you need them to be stable enough in order to stack them for transport. And then in the end, we had a very good packaging product that was slightly gray. And then in consumer testing, consumers do not buy white wall paint out of gray boxes. So there we had to do an overlay on top of this. But these are a lot of challenges that have to be dealt with from kind of a consumer, retailer, consumer communication point to make these materials more acceptable.
Thank you very much, Julia. Please bear with us because I can see that some questions are popping up in the chat. I will, however, suggest that Fernando, you take the floor now. So Fernando Venture is Head of Efficiency and Innovation Environment at Geronimo Martins. And so you have 10 minutes to discuss, and then we can have a 5-minute Q&A session on some topics. But thank you very much for providing some practical examples of your own internal strategy. That is greatly appreciated. Fernando, I saw you and I don't see you anymore, but I guess you will come back.
Hello, I'm here.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm trying to share my presentation now. And it is with connectivity today.
It's coming.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So let me start by my company, the Geronimo Martins Group. So Geronimo Martins is a company that is very focused on food retail. It represents more than 90% of our turnover. We have operations in Poland, Portugal, and Colombia. So more than 115 employees in those three countries. And let me start by identifying the most relevant characteristics of packaging for us. So it allows, of course, product safety and protection. It allows, enables quality and food safety. But also it has an important role in terms of efficiency, mainly in what concerns distribution and logistics and handling of products. It also is important in terms of customers are demanding more and more convenient solutions. Packaging has an important role in doing that. But also it's relevant for marketing, not only as a differentiation, but also because it can convey information for consumers. And so those are the most important features. But let me go back to convenience again. So we have been looking at convenience and relating this with packaging. And with this example, we have all these different solutions. So we can sell.
Hi, sorry, can I
Yes?
just, it seems that some people, I mean, most of us have an issue with hearing you. Do you mind maybe changing microphone? I'm sorry to cut you in the middle of your presentation, but it's quite interesting and we're having issues.
Enlève tes écouteurs, passe sur ton PC.
Okay, can you hear me better?
It's still a bit blurry. Try again without your headphones.
Oh.
Much better.
Okay. I don't know if you can hear me better now. Network problems. I'm experiencing some connectivity issues here.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay. So coming back to the subject, so giving this example, consumers can go and we have all these solutions available. For instance, in bulk, but they can also use disposable packaging that they can find in our stores available, but also they can buy it in different packagings. so metal and cardboard and so on. So what I'm trying to transmit here is that usually convenience demands more packaging. So I would say that the main challenges is on how we can increase convenient solutions, so as consumers are demanding for it, but by reducing packaging. This is one of the main challenges that we have to face. But nevertheless, convenience has a major role when choosing packaging solutions. And how are we addressing waste prevention in what concerns packaging? So we have been developing eco-design projects in the past 10 years, aiming basically to reduce the environmental impact of it, but also transport and display of products. For that, we have developed or identified 21 environmental criteria distributed by the different phases of the life cycle of packaging. And having a life cycle approach in what concerns eco-design, it's essential, not only because we can, when developing solutions, identifying alternatives, we can assess the impacts that those solutions have in the entire life cycle. So we want to have as many benefits in as many phases as possible, but also because it puts into perspective the constraints that we are facing along the life cycle. So in the supply chain, we have to face constraints in what concerns the technologies available in our supplies. We have to face a lot of constraints in what concerns transportation, distribution, and product handling, but also consumers' behaviors in what concerns the end of life of packaging. For that, we have 6 different eco-design strategies. So, which we use, eliminate necessary components, reduce the weight of components, also promoting the use of more eco-friendly materials, encourage recycling, and reduce product losses. We have introduced this last strategy because somehow packaging also has to address this subject. So in some cases, I would say that we can increase the amount of packaging that we are using if that can allow us to reduce the product losses. Just to give you some examples on how we are avoiding waste. So through reusable transport crates, these allow 20,000 tons a year of single-use packaging. We can also prevent waste by redesigning the shape of certain packaging components, like this water bottle, or by redesigning a certain specific component. In this case, we have made the reduction of the diameter of a carton roll of toilet paper, but it on the plastic film. So we could also reduce the amount of this plastic film, but also because now we are putting more units per pallet, we have reduced the number of trucks that are arriving our distribution centers, also contributing to reduce the CO2 emissions. In some cases, we are eliminating unnecessary components, like in this case, on frozen meals, we have eliminated the carton box.
There seems to be some difficulties now. Fernando, can you still hear us? Fernando, can you still hear us?
Yes, now I can hear you perfectly.
Okay,
Can you
because
hear
we
me?
still have you were breaking quite. We hear you with quite a lot of difficulties, which is a pity. Maybe if you can, if either you remove your headphones and you conclude, or we just start the Q&A, and if it works better, you can jump in a few minutes. Can you hear me? Okay, there seems to be some technical difficulties, so I'm just going to try to summarize what has been said so far by our two retailers on this issue. So there is definitely a challenge to see how to remove packaging and what the type of packaging can we remove. And from what we've seen today is that although packaging fits a purpose, there is definitely a willingness to reduce unnecessary packaging. But what we've seen from those examples is that there's no silver bullet solution, and we always need to try to find a trade-off between what is actually valuable and makes sense to remove, or trying to change the type of packaging we have, or the type of materials we use. We also have the challenge that sometimes solution is not necessarily visible at first. And this may be the reason why there are still work to be done. I would like to open the question and answer session for a few minutes before we go on a break. We now have seen a discussion addressed directly at you, Julia, by who I think is Jean-Pierre Schweitzer from EEB, from the European Environmental Bureau, asking you to elaborate a bit more on your reducing packaging footprint strategy. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes.
Yeah, reducing by 100% by 2030. That was the question.
Yeah. So that's it. The goal is to make packaging more 100% of our own brand product packaging more environmentally friendly by end 2030, and to kind of put meaning towards what does that mean, and for the actual packaging towards with the guidelines and the specific commitments. Because the challenge that we have is we want to make sure that every one of our own brand product packaging has the best environmental, or the best environmental performance, or the least environment impact, however you would like to call it, by the end of 2030. So we have the commitment to look at each packaging and to either avoid it, reduce it as much as possible, or improve the material we use. What that means in concrete terms for each packaging for the product, that depends on the product and the packaging material used. That's why it's a very general goal that then we make more concrete with those sub-targets and the guidelines in terms of what does that mean for the material. That's why we have the guidelines for our buyers in terms of what they buy, what conversations to have with suppliers. And within these guidelines, I can also send them around. Unfortunately, the example here is in German. For each material used, we have do's and don'ts that go very much into technical details of where am I on the safe side in terms of better environment performance, and what choices are there to be made, and which choices are better than other choices. I hope that clarifies it a little bit.
Thank you. No, that's quite clear. Your presentation will be shared by to the participants. Anyway,
I also saw a question on the recycled content. I just wanted to make sure that this is understood. We have a goal of 100% recycled packaging, recycled material for the packaging for the cleaning, care, and washing products by end 2021. I have shown a few examples of of products where we have already achieved for that specific product 100%. We are now up to 94% of our products in cleaning, care, and washing are where the packaging is made out of recycled content. So we're just missing those last 6%, and that's what the objective is.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think there is also some challenges regarding what packaging are packaging as well. I mean, in a way that what the type of products we are using around in those packaging. And I think sometimes the materials is also quite makes quite a difference. I can see some other questions in the chat. From your perspective as retailer, will it be beneficial if every retailer had to disclose their plastic footprint, both in weight and packaging unit? Do you want to take that question, Julia?
Yes, okay. I've never.
I mean, I can answer it as well, but I mean, I'd rather.
Well, from our to say, I mean, for first of all, we would have to distinguish brand products and own brand products, and then we would have to have the debate, which I don't, because I've not spoken to our sustainability department about this particular question. We are doing that assessment, and transparency is always a helpful thing. It's just that we will have to weigh where. What's the benefit of it in terms of cost? Because every time we have to continuously update and put this out for publication, there's work to be done behind it, and then we'll just have to assess what's the benefit of that. But generally, we are everything I've presented here. We put on the internet. We're very transparent about what we're doing in our packaging, how far we've come, and where we still have the challenges. And so the guidelines very clearly say where the challenges are and where we still need to do work. So we generally do not see any issue in this, because a lot of the challenges require cooperation across the entire supply chain and with consumers. So it's very good to talk about the challenges and to talk about where packaging still has to be worked on. Give you a very general no, yes or no, but something to discuss answer.
No, but indeed, and I think generally, I mean, we only always ask ourselves what it's good to know, what the consumer has to know as well, and we need to ensure that whatever information is provided, if it's also of purpose. So if it's only a way of disclosing an information that has no real impact on the consumption or on fostering sustainable consumption, there's not necessarily the value for it. Fernando, are you here? Or maybe I should suggest that we should break. Depends on if you can maybe just add some additional comments that you would like to, or some additional ideas you'd like to convey.
Well, I will try. I don't know if you are hearing me well at this moment.
I think it was better without the headphone. That's what I got from the chat. If you remove your microphone and speak directly in your computer. Yes, you're here?